Good morning and happy Thursday, everyone. I know, let's talk about it. Let's jump right into it. Yesterday, in after hours, GameStop announced proposed private offering another 1.75 billion of those convertible senior notes. The same thing that they did back in March, just the day after earnings. It's like a repeat. Exactly what happened. And there's an additional 250 million available. If, with the option there, so that would put it around about 2 billion. So it looks like GameStop raising another 2 billion in cash. It's going to be based on just like the last one. It'll be based on the VWAP price from 1 p.m. through the last 3 hours of the trading day. So if it's anything like the one that occurred in March, if you remember, it was the next day. So GameStop, the very next day, completed that. So, and then the sales closed April 1st. So, the note's expected to close April 1. So they offered it, the first day, and then the very next day on the 26th, and then the 27th it was priced. So I assume that there's going to be a press release in after hours today, basically with the same verbiage as the March 27th press release, and that they announce pricing of those notes. I assume that already will happen. You're seeing the stock down about 16.5, 17% this morning and yesterday, through overnight trading. Down as of right now 17% in pre-market trading at 23.66, so down 17% there. And we saw the same thing happen. So if we go back to March, so, a lot of people talked about during that VWAP time period. Let's go back to that here. And we can do that here. We'll get us back over here to... We'll take a look at March, how that went down, because it was just right after earnings. Let's see here. So we'll pull up our March, and we'll get back in so we can zoom in a little bit on it this morning and take a look at it here. No, it didn't exactly zoom like I wanted it to. That's okay. Sometimes these things happen. Sometimes they don't. Trying to move over too much there. Here we go. We'll get her dialed in. But I just wanted to pull up the 15-minute chart so we could just kind of look at that price action that went down on the days when right after earnings. So here we go. We had earnings, and then GameStop announced. And let me turn off after hours data here. And did that reset me? Oh, it did reset me. Good. Darn it, here. That's all right. Hang on just a second. We'll get dialed in here. All right. So I wanted to see the gap up and then the earnings. So we had this March 25th, and then earnings, boom, gapped up. And then they announced that the next day. They, announced an after hours on the 26th. And then pricing followed then on the 27th of March. So if we look at that actual pricing then, when that went down, we're going to zoom in on this time period, because I feel like it's going to be the very similar vibe, what you'll see over the next few days with the arbitrage and the convertible notes. Because essentially, if you're long the notes, you're shorting the stock. That's called the convertible note arbitrage. And I just shared a post on my X, and I reshared that where we covered this back in March, so we can take a look at that as well. But yeah, so when we gapped up here, boom, earnings, then the information come out, oh, we're going to sell some notes. And then the pricing took effect from 1 o'clock, basically the last 3 hours of the trading day on then March 27th. So you can see how that played out on March 27th, and then GameStop kind of stayed. But I assume, boom, then the stock was shorted as they sold off those notes. Because then just the news that morning, the stock opened March 27th. It was around like 26 on the high. And then by 12:30 lunchtime, it had fallen to a low of 21.16. And you've already seen GameStop hit a low of 23.56 in pre-market this morning. So it took a few days, but then nobody really cared about the notes once the stock rallied again. I know. So similar concept. Do I think today will be... I think today they'll announce in after hours that yes, they completed they'll announce the pricing. I assume they won't hesitate. The price action certainly reflects what's going to happen and what's happening. So if we take a look actually at the current price action, we'll take a look at some other things here as well this morning during the video today. But yeah, you can see we're down just a little bit here. So I know a lot of people were excited. Everybody's like, hey, but it was just at 37. And that was up because actually, as I try to tell everybody every single day during the videos, I always say be mindful, if the stock's going to retrace, use any previous lows. Also, use your SMAs, like especially your 200 SMA or your 50-day SMA. And yesterday, let's see here. Yesterday, let me turn off the extended hour data because yesterday, so this is before, so it's not going to look like anything. But yesterday, your SMA, your 200-day is at 2581. We're looking up there in the top left corner, and then your 50-day at 2766. So we had the golden cross, nice move up, GameStop up, boom, 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 came back down. Still above where we were at because here was earnings. Here was that earnings gap up. So we're kind of right in the same spot that earnings were yesterday before the close and before the announcement of the notes. And then fast forward, you bring on the notes. See, now you can see today's candle with the 2363 well below that 200-day. So if that was something you were targeting, like yesterday, we saw the stock drop below its 9 and 21-day EMA. So that kind of became short-term bearish in that regard. And then you see the RSI kind of dip down a little bit and reset. See, I would take a look. I mean, the last, let's see, April lows down there at 2078, 21, So, yeah, I mean, the stock's at what, 23, low of 2356 this morning in pre-market. So, we'll have to see how it reacts once Wall Street opens. Once the desk, whatever trade desk is managing the arbitrage here. So, we'll see how this opens once the option markets, because I'm sure you wouldn't want to think they would let all those puts. Market makers are definitely going to have to do some hedging here to get back to delta neutral on some of these positions. But as we talked about this old post, I shared it on X, the convertible note arbitrage. I just, said, hey, this was, I think, before the weekend. I just encourage folks to just do some research. I'd be happy to post more about it. As seen with the GameStop short volume, you can't grab 1.3 billion in liquidity without hedging the underlying. So, and there was a ton of misinformation had been circulating out there. So I had shared something just about convertible bond arbitrage, how it works. Essentially, the arbitrage strategy takes a long position in the convertible bonds while shorting the stock of the company. So you're seeing the stock get shorted while they take the long position in the bonds, which the bonds then can be converted to equity in the underlying company's specific price at some point in the future. As you saw, highlighted with the press release, the same verbiage you're seeing back in March is the same thing you're seeing in June. So, and like I said, more than likely you'll see that they announced the actual pricing today and after hours. And it is Thursday, June 12th, ahead of the market opens. So yeah, I'll relink this, but definitely something you should take a look at in regards to how arbitrage works with convertible. Essentially involves taking simultaneous long and short positions in a convertible bond and its underlying stock. The trader hopes to profit from any movement in the market by having the appropriate hedge between the long and the short positions. And then how much they buy and sell of each security depends on the hedge ratio, which is determined by the delta. So, we've talked about delta and gamma and how that influences options. So, delta defines the sensitivity of the price of the bond to changes in the price of the stock. So, basically, all the price within the change of the underlying GameStop sell-fit stock would be how sensitive is the price on the convertibles determines the delta. So once that delta has been estimated, the arbitrage or the desk, whoever is facilitating the trade, can establish their delta position so that they know exactly how much stock they need to short while simultaneously going long on the bonds. So I highly recommend, reading more about this. I reposted it, so I don't spend a lot of time, but there's a ton of wealth of information out there just about convertible notes and arbitrage and how that works. Right now, GameStop looks like move a little bit lower here, 23.38. So, a lot of people are like, hey, 21, 20, look where it's been before. I mean, this same thing happened in March, and it went down to around 21, 2073. So we'll see what happens, like I said, once the market opens in that regard. But we look at the flow yesterday. I didn't really see anything that jumped out too crazy. Total option premium yesterday was about 43 million on Wednesday. You saw just the decline, the net call premium. I thought that was just reflective of the price and the reaction to earnings. Saw some of that net call premium, pardon me, net put premium fade away as well. Some of the impact here, I saw like $20 calls for July. We'll take a look at those as well. There's just some in the money call options there for the July expiry. Saw about 1.6 million, about 1,800 volume yesterday, and then about 1,000 appeared new open interest. So somebody might have bought a perceived dip in that regard. So it was like a lot of call activity in the morning, and then it was just very quiet the bulk of the day. So might have been because Wall Street might have known what was coming with the GameStop here in the notes. I'm not sure in that regard. Saw some more of those deep in the money puts in that regard being sold. Some of those 95s, and then some of that open interest did carry over. About 1.7 million worth yesterday sold of the 95 puts. And then, like we see, about half usually comes over new open interest. This could be short seller, could be synthetic long position. A lot of different scenarios that could be with the deep in the money put. And we've talked about that. I've actually shared separate videos. They're both on X, on YouTube, just about like the put arbitrage there within GameStop on some of these options as well. But let's take a look at actually where the bulk of that cash was spent on GameStop here. I was also taking a look too at the 2X, the GMEU, the 2X leveraged ETF. That pre-market low 1605 this morning. So that's the lowest that's actually been since it was ever released. I know everyone's got their feelings on that, but that's just a 2X leverage ETF that tries to make the return at GameStop. I just saw it on my scanner because it was down 35% this morning in pre-market. GameStop's down 17%. Like I said, it's a 2X ETF, so it's going to magnify the results up and down times two. So definitely cautious there. But it looks like some volume a little bit there this morning in that ETF. So kind of interesting to see in that regard. So we take a look at the top option premium there on GameStop. Let's pull it up here. We got the $22 calls for July. Let's take a look at those here. Just some in the money, but I believe a lot of that was multi-leg transactions tied to another trade because I can see the multi up here. So let's pull that up and take a look at that. Get you the most accurate info. So always take a look at the other sides of these trades here. Because it'll be denoted multi-leg. See all this ML--O, that's multi-leg option trade. So we'll look for the ones with the large size behind them. And unusual whales will denote the multi-leg here. So we sold the $32 calls and bought the 22s. Just a call debit spread. We've talked about that before. I'll put that on your screen. If you want to pause or screen record, you can. A little bit more information there for you on a call debit spread in that regard. But that's what they were doing for those particular options there. So that's why we saw those. Let's take a look at what else we saw yesterday. The 30 calls for June. I saw those activity for next week. That's the expiry, the monthly. Saw that right off the beginning, the volume, and then it was just kind of slow the rest of the day. Open interest did increase a little bit. So a lot of, good amount of selling there at the beginning. Some of those contracts could have traded hands as they've slipped way out of the money now. The 95 puts, we talked about that. Those 20s, also we talked about that. Those in the money calls for July. And then these 25s as well for July. I believe that was also multi-leg. Let's take a look at that. Because I think there was a couple of maybe spreads on this as well that a trader was running. I thought I had noted, multi-leg here. We'll pull that up here. Yeah, they were selling the $41 calls to finance the 25. So it was another call debit spread. So if you saw the 41 calls or you saw the 25 calls there in July, just somebody trying to, benefit in a little uptick in price, but not too much change to volatility. So they're running a little bit of a spread there into the July OPEX. Probably just a repositioning following the earnings, which you may see a change in the repositioning again this morning. And I'll report on that. We'll make a new video tomorrow covering the option flow today, so you can take a look at that as well. Because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of hedging and adjustments today once the market opens here in the next half hour. The 30 calls saw some of that selling yesterday, actually. I did see an increase in open interest. I might have been selling some of those covered calls or buying as well. It's a little bit more bid than on the ask, and then some of that open interest. So, if you felt GameStop maybe wouldn't, get above 30, or you were selling some volatility, maybe buying back. There's a couple of different scenarios there in that regard. So yeah, I try to sort the things, look for things over 500,000 or higher. So here it is sorted by premium. And then here's, whether it's a call or a put, your strike and your expiry. And you're welcome to pause or take a screenshot there. Take a look, what some of the other. It was just a lot of like out of the monies, shortly in the money. We'll pull up here all the highest volume contracts yesterday as well, just so you can see it as we wrap up here. Let's see, GameStop 2365, so 2333 low was the low so far this morning at time of filming. So we'll see here, back up here, 2335. So yeah, I mean, you've seen the stock, you've seen these plays, you saw it last year. All the offerings last year. I mean, the stock went from 300 million shares outstanding last year to now 450 million shares. But they also went from $1 billion cash last year to now $6 billion in cash. And then following this offering, this notes, they're going to have about $8 billion in cash. So yeah, I mean, GameStop's definitely loading the bag with cash. And, they've now got their Bitcoin as well, because, they announced they bought Bitcoin. So I'm not sure if they're going to use any of this money to buy more Bitcoin, because we know they bought 4,710, and we know they bought that between March 3rd and March 28th. Well, it says March 3rd to June 10th on the earnings, but they announced on May 28th that they had purchased it. So we're to assume, based on their earnings statement from May 3rd to this announcement date is when they bought the actual Bitcoin, which was around 90, so 85, 95K, depending on when they bought it. So not up a whole lot, but they're definitely up a little bit on that, on their Bitcoin as well. So yeah, I mean, it looked good there. You've seen the stock. You've seen where this stock has been. Just earlier this year, it was down to 2021. So yeah, look for these lower levels. We'll see what happens today. Is 2333 the low in pre-market? Not sure. Do you try to get back to some of these other lows you saw after the last earnings? Possibly. Just stay alert, stay aware. Always follow the volume, the option flow. Like I said, more than likely, I would assume, and I know what happens with you assume, but I assume that just like what we saw in March, you will see a press release today saying that, hey, here's the pricing of the notes, yada yada yada, and that the purchaser went ahead and bought the additional. So I assume the purchaser will do the same, and then we'll give us the net proceeds. So I assume, they're gonna make about a couple bill almost, and whoever, private placement, whoever buys them, I'm certain will probably buy the additional 250 mil. So putting that right at 2 bill, and then I'm sure they'll net about 1.9, 1.8, somewhere around there, 1.9 something, after fees and commission. So yeah, which will put their cash up to about 8 billion, which is wild. 8 billion in cash. But remember, just like when they added the 1.5 notes, that essentially is like long-term debt. Selling 1.75 billion in notes, granted, is also kind of like debt. So you have to add that to the balance sheet. And I talked about that during earnings as well, how the debt increased on GameStop. That's only because they're selling debt, essentially selling notes. So keep that in mind. The debt for GameStop essentially doubled by selling these notes, but there's 0% interest, gives them opportunity on the cash up front. So pretty confident they know what they're doing. I'm pretty confident Ryan Cohen knows what he's doing. He definitely knows how to take advantage of the price and make money for the company. And now essentially using other people's money to buy Bitcoin and using other people's money to strengthen the balance sheet. So eventually, if you look here where the stock was, last year even, let's see here, last April, it was down at $10 a share. Now it's 28. He's definitely, provided some value to shareholders. So if you were a new shareholder and bought last year GameStop right around here, you've received value on your stock. You've received shareholder equity. Even if you were down in before, let's see. Anytime back in November of 23, split adjusted. So yeah, I mean, there's been some value there returned to shareholders. It just depends when you bought. Now I know the people that bought the stock way up here high, they don't feel that same way. I understand that, but a lot of people have been trying to tell you ways to make some money on that as well. Sell covered calls, generate income on that position, to update that position. Sell puts to generate income when you're bullish, sell calls when you're bearish. There's a lot of different ways. So, yeah, we'll see how this plays out the rest of the day. Be looking for the press release. I'll post it in after hours. Like I said, I assume it was coming. And I thought for sure, we would have seen some type of offering. I assumed it was probably going to happen. I thought we'd see some notes selling up here when the stock was blazing there around Memorial Day, 36. I was like, man, are they going to sell more of those notes? But nope, just waited till earnings. So I'm not sure. I mean, they have a plan, they have a strategy, but they're raising cash over there at GameStop. But yeah, stock right down there. So I mean, you've seen it. It's been here before. It just negates all of that, but we'll see what it does in the next few days. Give it time because, like anything else, you know how this works. You saw it happen. You saw this happen. The same thing in March. Boom, stock come down. Everybody forgot about it when it came back up here. Then everybody forgot about this dip when the stock was at 35. I know. The sentiment. Remember, the sentiment runs these stocks. So the algorithms, they all respond to it. Everyone's like, yay, no, yay, no, yay. I get it. It's a cycle. Market cycles, and there's opportunity, and there is money involved in that. So, yeah, that's what I got for you today. But like I said, I encourage you about to read about more about just the convertible notes and the arbitrage relating to that. Let's take a look here. GameStop moving just a little bit, trying to get back to 24 there, it looks like. Trying to move a little bit down, 16.5% this morning, 23.83. So not too bad. It's trying to do its thing. Just to be patient with it, give it time. You know how these things work. I think you've been around the stock and the volatility long enough to know how to make money from it. So yeah, I mean, like for example, like $30 calls. Anybody had those yesterday? I know a lot of people were, they moved yesterday. $30 puts. I know those were priced inappropriately. I may or may not have had some of those as well. So you gotta hedge. You gotta trade the stock. You gotta trade, not trade it, but I mean, you have to trade your hedges. If you're invested long, learn how to hedge. There's plenty of people on the internet, plenty of people that are willing to help. I'm always available. Send me a message if you want to learn more, just about strategies, wealth information there on YouTube, wealth information with like unusual whales, and things like that. So, yeah, we'll see what this does. But you've been here before. Go back and read everything. Go back like to my old videos, even the old posts here. I'm gonna go ahead and repost that this morning. Um, let's see here. Undo the repost and then repost this. So that way it's fresh on the thing this morning. Oh, it's okay. Hold on here. This always gets funny here. Oh, when you repost there. Okay, here we go. Oh, now I got to go way back to March. Okay, I'll repost it. No, don't worry about that. Oh, here we go. There was the convertible note arbitrage. That's what I wanted to repost because that was the old video I had made as well back then where we talked about that. So note buyers hedging by shorting the stocks, millions in put premium. Yeah, so take a look at all of that, or this video, that video. This is linked also here as well. I believe I linked some information there to Investopedia as well. And there's, like I said, a ton of information out there. You can look at how this worked with MicroStrategy. They're doing the exact same thing where they use other people's money to buy Bitcoin, sell debt, bring in money, buy Bitcoin. So Michael Saylor, you saw that, take a photo with Ryan Cohen. Yeah, they've talked. They know how this works. So that's exactly what they're doing. Yeah, we'll just follow it. But yeah, take a look at that. I encourage you to read more about it. And like I said, we'll probably see that press release. I would assume if it's just like what they did in March, that press release will be out today. There's no need for them to wait. And more likely, the deal was already done. The cake's been baked, as I would say. So if you enjoyed the video, you're awesome. Share it. I do appreciate that. Reply down below. Convertible note arbitrage, whether here on X or on YouTube. reply convertible note arbitrage. And I'll know you watched today's video all the way through. Yeah, you all guys have a fabulous day, and we'll see you lurking around the internet.